wow, I love that. I love that. Okay, continuing. I'm on chapter 4 of the book entitled The Snake Doctor. And for those who missed chapter 3, it has to do with a young filmmaker named Kojo Bediako Brown going to the village of Chee-Toe in Upper Ghana to visit the auntie of a girlfriend.
Mm.
He wants to visit a real village, to go into the heart of Ghana, so to speak. And while he's there, in the last chapter, he's out into the jungle surrounding Chee-Toe, population 1111 or 1500, something like that. While he's out and around, he runs into a man named Asiafo. Asiafo is the man who had been banished to the forest years ago and managed in a sense to become a latter-day Tarzan. And this is where it takes place when he returns from his accidental meeting out in the forest with the man named Asiafo. Aunt Eugenia was wringing her hands and showing all of the distress signs that mothers, aunts show about delinquent kids. "Oh, Kojo, you have been gone a long time. I was worried that you would be lost." "No, Auntie, I wasn't lost. Come, I have prepared your chop." "It ain't bushmeat, is it?" She smiled at my joke. After 4 days of her generous hospitality and her delicious Ghanaian food, we would smile at the memory of the first meal she had served me. Bushmeat. It only took a few bites from his small hind leg to realize that I was gnawing on a large rat. Bushmeat.
Mm.
It wasn't bad, just a bit unsettling. I dismissed my squeamish cultural bias and ate the damn thing as though I'd been eating bushmeat all my life. But I couldn't fool her. "No more bushmeat for you, Kojo. We have banku and okra stew." I did the culturally correct thing and rinsed my right hand to dig into a bowl of sumptuous okra stew. It could have been gumbo filet without the shrimps. Aunt Eugenia sat across from me on the low wooden table in front of her neat little 3-room hut. She watched me eat, making little sounds to let me know that there was more banku and okra stew if I wanted more. She didn't eat with me. That was a cultural thing to do. "Auntie, would you like to take some chop with me? It's delicious." She smiled and shook her head. No. I was reminded of Asiafo nodding up and down. Yes. She brought me a small wooden bowl with water and a sliver of soap to wash my hands, a piece of cloth to dry my hands after I had eaten 2 bowls of banku and okra stew. She was pleased with my appetite. For those who may not know what banku is, it's fermented corn made into something that looks like a ball of dough, and it takes on the flavor of whatever it is you eat. It's a little bit like fufu, but fufu comes from cassava, banku comes from corn. I leaned my back against the wall of the hut, belly full, watching village life going around me. Goats eating cardboard, dried banana leaves, bits and ends of whatever they could find. Children playing as always, and things on their heads. And women, young and old, washing, sewing, and hauling water and other things on their heads. The elder men sat under a large tree at the edge of the village, sipping palm wine and discussing village business, all surrounded by rainy season mud. "So, Kojo, my son, how did you find it in the forest?" I love that Kojo, my son thing. It had a beautiful family ring to it. "Auntie, I met an unusual man in the forest. She looked like she was going to keel over from shock." What does this man call himself? Asiafo. Oh,
no.
oh. She stood up and did a little circular dance, holding her right hand over her mouth. Oh, I just stared at her. I didn't know what to think. After a couple of more circles, she beckoned me to follow her into the hut. We had never sat in the hut together. Since the first day, she had gone to one of her relatives to spend the night and left me in the hut alone. She gestured for me to sit on one of the stools in the hut as she dug down into a large straw bag hanging on the far wall. She brought out 2 glasses and a fifth of clear liquor. She sat on a stool across from me, poured both of us big slugs of liquor. Auntie, what is this? Apeteshe. Apeteshe, she announced, and started a series of serious libations. Each time she dribbled a bit of the liquor on the ground, she said what must have been prayers. It was in Ewe. It had a gorgeous sound to it, a feel to it, but I couldn't understand a word. Finally, she took the glass up and swallowed the rest of the apeteshe. I tried to do the same thing, which seemed to be the proper thing to do, but I was only able to swallow a large sip. They called apeteshe the poor man's gin, but it was stronger than gin. Auntie, you seem to be disturbed about something. She poured more apeteshe into her glass, made 3 more libations and prayers before she spoke to me. Kojo, my son, you have met this wicked one, Asiafo in the forest. I have offered prayers for you. Asiafo, wicked? He didn't seem wicked to me. As a matter of fact, he seemed like a pretty nice dude. I mean, after all, he was talking about helping me get the buck to make my grandfather's eyes. I had already come up with a working title for my script. Auntie, I don't understand. Why do you say Asiafo is wicked? He is a witch.
Oh.
I took a big sip of apeteshe. I had to be cool about this. The word witch sounded so medieval. I had to remember that I was in a small village in Ghana, in the middle of nowhere, and there was a lot for me to learn about the scene. Please, Auntie, please, tell me, what makes him a witch? She took a big slug of her drink. And stared down at the earth floor, looking embarrassed. You ask, I will tell you. When I was a small girl in this village, this wicked man was banished from the village and cursed for knowing his mother. I stared at her. Village people were so into biblical things. For knowing his mother. And thus did Onan know his brother's wife. Are you sure he knew his mother? They were caught by 2 of the elders. I felt a warm thud hit the bottom of my stomach. Maybe it was the apeteshe, maybe it was the information she was giving me. So he was cursed and banished to the forest? How long ago? It was at least 40 years now. So what happened to his mother? She was a witch, and she was burned in a hut. That sounded like excessive punishment on both counts, but I didn't live in Chee-Toe, and I couldn't pass judgment on them. How was Asiafo when he was banished? The old lady took a moment to count that. She reminded me of my grandfather, who could never be rushed to say anything. He was 20 years. 20 years. The guy I saw today didn't look a day older than 40. Auntie, the man I met in the forest today, didn't look like a 60-year-old man. He's learned a great many powers in the forest from the forest spirits. Maybe he has learned how to not to become old. We know that he has many powers. Can you give me an example? You say, can you tell me about something he has done that shows some of his powers? She pursed her lips and furrowed her brow, thinking I could sense her reluctance to talk about Asiafo, the wicked man. But I could see that the appetition had loosened her up a bit. This man who lived in our village had a wife who died. The man did not want her dead, so he went into the forest and found the wicked man and paid him to bring his wife back from the dead. The sounds of the village seemed to go away for a moment. He brought somebody back from the grave. How much did he charge to do what he did? The man did not pay money. I couldn't quite figure out what that meant and decided not to press the issue. Can you think of anything else? It is said that he has learned to disappear, to fly like a bird, to become a tree or a snake. And you think these things make him wicked? There's much more. They say he can read the mind and see into tomorrow. Wow. And he is wicked because he hates everyone. Well, I think that's pretty easy to understand. His mother was burned alive, and he was cursed and banished to the forest. I think anybody would be pissed. You say, I can easily understand why he would be annoyed. Many in the village want to kill him, his mother and all of their family members. Does he still have family here? They went away many years ago. So now let me get this straight. A man was cursed and banished to the forest 40 years ago. He gets help from the forest spirits to develop great powers, and he is wicked because he hates everybody. She stood swaying a bit and poured another dollop of aptitude into her glass and slugged it down. 6 people of this village have gone to ask him something of him, and when they didn't make the proper payments on time, they were never seen again. That's wicked. He is wicked, I warn you. I watched the old lady shuffle out, slightly tipsy. I remained in place trying to put it all together. I could see a hell of a film in all of this, if I could determine which point of view would be the most effective. Aren't you genius? Asiafo's mine, someone else. And if all of the seams could be sewn so that the stitching wouldn't show, but somehow the problem would remain. How could I make anyone believe that this was the 21st century? Next day, I forced myself to eat the onion, tomato, fish stew, sprinkled with the grits like corn they call gari. I was anxious to keep my appointment with Asiafo, the wicked man. Immediately after chopping, I made an oblique move to get away. The old lady was sharp. She peeked my getaway from around the corner of her hut. Kojo, my son, you're going to walk in the forest? I have warned you. Everything is cool, Auntie. Everything is cool. I checked my watch. 9:30 a.m. And the sky looked grayish, like a little rain was on the way. No matter. I had an appointment to keep. I thought I had taken the wrong path until I came across the log. Good, I'm in the right place. I straddled the log, wishing that I had brought a bottle of water with me. The humidity was stifling. The hair on the back of my neck stood up when his hand reached over my left shoulder with the top of a coconut lopped off. I tried to control my shakes as I took the coconut and drank the sweet liquid from it. I couldn't figure out why Asiafo was sitting behind me. Thank you, I was really thirsty. You're welcome. I turned to pass the coconut shell back to him to discover that he was sitting in front of me.
Okay.
You really get around, don't you? He nodded. Yes, yes. Took the coconut, smashed it on the log, and gave me a large chunk of the meat to eat. Delicious, sweet. We chewed on the fresh coconut meat for a few beats before he spoke. So now, you know all about me. Once again, that fright-wig feeling shot up the back of my neck. He hadn't asked the question. He had made a blunt statement. Now what? I know what one person has told me. I don't know your story. She told you the correct story.
Wow.
His expression didn't change. There was no body language to indicate that he felt ashamed, remorseful, or evil. The sudden shrill cries of a flock of birds filled up the word space between us. You've been living here in the forest since you were banished? Yes. I stared at him. No wrinkles, no bags under his eyes, not an ounce of fat, all of his teeth, serene looking. Asiafo, may I ask you a few questions? Do you want to get wet? No, I don't want to get wet. It's going to rain in a few minutes. He slipped from the log and gestured for me to follow him. 6 people, Auntie said, had gone to see him for some reason, and when they didn't make the proper payment, they were never seen again. Well, I hadn't asked him for anything, and I didn't owe him anything, so I thought I was cool. After about 5 minutes of fast walking, we came to a small clearing. There was a large hut made of broad banana leaves in the center of the clearing. It was a scene right out of the documentary about the Ituri forest people, the so-called pygmies, except that his banana leaf hut was larger. 10 seconds after we ducked inside, the rain sloshed down. Wow! We made it just in time. How did you know? He cut my idiot question to pieces with a sharp glance.
Okay.
How could I live in the forest this long and not know when it's going to rain? That's what the look said. Asiafo started a little small fire in a hole in the center of the hut with flint sparks and dried moss. I felt like someone who had been taken back to the beginning. He lit 2 wicks floating on 2 oil-filled half-coconut shells. He fed the fire with a few twigs and then larger sticks of wood. The interior suddenly had a warm, hospitable atmosphere. He gestured for me to sit on a beautifully carved stool. If he was a wicked man, then he certainly had an eye for beautiful things. I stared at the vine contraption animal traps hanging on the foundation poles of his hut, the woven baskets, the leaf shade hats, the hand-fashioned tools. We sat on our stools looking at the fire, listening to the drum thunder beats on the roof of the hut. You wanted to ask me questions. I had almost forgotten what I wanted to ask, a bit overwhelmed by the atmosphere. He was focused. What did I want to ask him? What happens when you get sick? He smiled at me in a patronizing way. I don't believe in sickness. I don't either, but let's say a mosquito bites you and you get malaria. I have medicine. You have medicine for malaria? He gave his familiar yes, yes nod. There was such a definite way he nodded, yes, yes. You have medicine for AIDS, cancer, the common cold? I don't have these things here. But you do have medicines to treat them. Yes. I gazed into the fire for a long, thoughtful moment. Where in the hell am I? Where is all this? Can I make a film out of it? You want to make a picture of this? He asked in a soft, sweet voice. I stared into the eyes of a man who could read minds. It was obviously clairvoyant. I had no doubts about it. Yes, if not this, then other films that would change minds and attitudes, films that would be wonderful, reasonable, sensitive, intelligent. You spoke of these pictures before. The rain seemed to be pounding on the leaves like downstroking food from sticks. We were silent for a few minutes. It is possible for you to have the millions you need to do your picture, he said quietly. Once again, I stifled the urge to laugh. A half-naked man making fire with sparks, living in a banana leaf hut in the middle of the equatorial rainforest, tell me that it's possible for me to have the millions needed to do my film, fulfill my dreams? How do I get these millions? I asked politely. I didn't want to sound skeptical. Come back to the log tomorrow. I will have the answer for you. The rain has stopped. Come, I will guide you back to the log. I stood up feeling lightheaded. My problems were over, solved. I had nothing to worry about. The forest dripped raindrop from its leaves. The ground was gooey, and there was a heavy, dank funk in the air. I followed Asiafo back to the log, tried to step where he stepped, bend under the branches the way he did to blend into the forest. He literally disappeared when we got back to the log. Oh, well, I'll see him tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes. His voice echoed from a place above my head. Tomorrow. Same time, same place. And then that crazy hyena laugh. God, who taught a man how to laugh like that? I held my wristwatch up to check the time. 10:45 a.m. No, that couldn't be right. I listened to my watch. An expensive timepiece. It was ticking like a metronome. It's got to be later than 10:45 a.m. Something strange going on here. I can't believe all of what just happened only took 45 minutes. The meeting, going to his hut, the rain, all that in 45 minutes. I spent the day carefully reviewing every moment I had spent with Asiafo. I wanted to make absolutely certain I was not indebted to him for anything. He had offered to help me. I had not made any requests or demands. I wanted to be certain that I wouldn't be number 7 on the list of people who had disappeared. We're going to go on into chapter 5 because it seems like that would be a good thing to do.
Yes, please.
Auntie Eugenia was not happy about my little treks into the forest, or as the Ghanaians would say, she was quite annoyed with me. Kojo, my son, you are walking into the forest again this morning? I need to do the exercise, Auntie, to burn off some of the calories from your delicious chop. I could feel her eyes on my neck as I eased away for my third meeting with Asiafo. I have warned you, she called after me. I pretended not to hear and kept on stepping. I was surprised to see Asiafo leaning against the log, a chewing stick in the right corner of his mouth. I took careful note of the time. 9:30 a.m. I strolled over and leaned against the log facing him. He used the licorice-flavored stick to brush his teeth for a moment or so. Before he looked directly at me. It was freeze frame for 10 long seconds. You will have what you want. Your wish be fulfilled. You will have the millions needed to make your picture. My heart felt like it was going to thump out of my chest. Millions? Is that what the man said? You do believe me, don't you? Yes, I do believe you. Was I being hypnotized? No, I felt in control of myself. Now what? Asiafo started to walk away. Asiafo! He stopped but didn't turn around. Yes. What do I have to do for this money? There it was, that hyena laugh. And then, as though he was reciting a speech or giving a recipe for a dish. I will arrange for you to have a visitor. The visitor will come 4 times a year, and it must be fed. You understand? Yes, I understand. I understand. I must warn you that the success or failure of what you want to do will depend on how well it is fed. There's no problem. We got lots of food in America. Very good. Do what has to be done, and you will have what you want. He started to walk away again. I felt a sense of panic. Is that all? I mean, that's all I have to do? Oh, there's one more thing. When you return to your country, you should be married within 3 months. 3 months? 3 months? Married? The chess game was on. What move should I make? What move could I make? Millions for my film, and all I had to do was feed somebody 4 times a year and get married. Asiafo, I accept the conditions. One last question. What do you get out of this? I mean, why are you making this possible? Because I want to. And then he was gone. I felt like I'd been left in a huge green wall room. The forest seemed to be booming with silence. I stood in place for a few moments, feeling emotionally drained, and then started my trip up the path back to the village. When I reached the path, I turned to wave at someone I couldn't see. Goodbye, Asiafo, and thank you. The forest suddenly erupted with Asiafo's hyena laughter. What did he find funny about that? Or maybe he wasn't really laughing in the way I understood laughter. Oh well. Auntie Eugenia and the rest of the village seemed to be a different place when I returned. Auntie was reserved, aloof, and almost cold to me. Some of the villagers who had formerly been cordial to me were distant now. Some of them even frowned at me when they saw me walk into the village after the evening meal. I had obviously blown it. I felt the attitude was unfair. Even if they knew I had gone to see Asiafo, I didn't feel that I'd done anything wrong. What did I do to them? I caught Auntie as she was getting ready to make her nightly getaway. Auntie, I'd like to talk with you. She stood in place, her arms folded across her breast, and gave me a stern look. I felt 2 feet tall. Auntie Eugenia, I know you told me to be aware. Yes. She spoke in a sharp tone. Yes! I told you to be aware, and walked away from me. Now what? I went into the hut, searched in the woven basket for the apteche bottle, settled on a stool, and took a long swig. Damn, what the hell is all this about? All of the village sounds that had once sounded so interesting had an ominous tinge now. And I couldn't understand a word of everything. Another big swig of apteche. Be cool. Don't panic, I told myself. You'll be out of here Monday afternoon. Monday afternoon, 2 days away. What if Joshua, the taxi driver who drove me here, doesn't come for me? I broke into a paranoid sweat. How in the hell could I get out of this place? A couple hours later, some kind of scraping sound brought me out of a deep appeteche sleep. What was that? Were the villagers stacking wood around the hut to roast my ass, like they had done Asiafo's mother? The hut suddenly seemed too small. I sat on the side of my cot trying to put my game plan together. No matter what happened, I was going to go down fighting. An owl hooted. Didn't owls mean death? Kojo! Kojo! It was daylight and I had a vicious hangover. I staggered to the door and let Auntie Eugenia in. Kojo, you locked the door? Oh, sorry. It's just an old-fashioned city habit. She gave me a curious look, sniffed the liquor residue on my breath. And began to tidy up the hut as usual. I have taken water for your bath. Thank you, Auntie. So that's the way we're going to do it. Pretend that everything was just the way it was. I draped myself in my bath towel and walked around out to a bathing stall. I could look over the enclosure at the villagers going about their business. Saturday. After my bath, I took a while to put on my t-shirt, shorts, and sandals. I knew I had to keep my wits about me. Auntie called. Kojo, your breakfast chopped. I'm coming, I answered automatically and checked myself. Poison. That's the way they would do it.
Paranoia.
Auntie Eugenia, well, shit, she believed in witches and stuff like that. I got angry at myself for thinking such negative thoughts about the kindly old lady, but I couldn't shake this paranoia off. Oh, Auntie, I'm really not hungry just now. I have something later. She glared at me, both fists mounted on her ample hips. But you should eat, especially after the apeteshi. She blindsided me with a big smile, but that wasn't enough. Auntie, you're absolutely right. But not now. I'll have something a little later. The big smile was erased by the returning glare. So now you're going to walk in the 40s? I hadn't thought about it, but yeah, that sounded like a good idea. Yes, I'm going for a walk in the forest. I promise I won't talk to strangers. The big smile returned. That is good, that is good. Your chop will be here when you return. Yeah. I grabbed a quart bottle of water and started walking. I didn't want to go anywhere. I had a hangover and I was hungry, but I also felt the need for a little space between me and the situation. What could I do in the forest? I didn't want to go anywhere. I had a hangover and I was hungry, but I also felt the need for a little space between me and the situation. My stomach was rumbling like an old man. Maybe I should have eaten before I decided to take my walk. Too late now. I took my time exploring, studying things. I walked in a big circle around the village, keeping the sounds to my left as points of orientation. I felt no need to get lost. After an hour, I was soaking with sweat. Time to go back home. If the vibe had been somewhat negative when I started off on my walk, it was downright hostile now. Some people actually turned their backs as I walked in their direction. Auntie pointed her finger at the covered wooden bowls of food as though I were a dog. I had to drink water and I had to eat. I had to take a gamble that Auntie Eugenia wouldn't poison me, that she wouldn't want to report the news to Grace that I had died in Chee-Toe of poisoning. I ate, I drank, and I slept. Wandered around, killing time. The midday siesta, when nobody did anything that was unnecessary because it was so hot and humid, was best of all time for me. I sprawled on my cot, sweat trickling off of my brow like somebody was pouring water on my head. I wonder what Asiafo did in his cool little banana leaf hut during the midday heat. I did a mental review of the conditions, stipulations of the contract I had made with Asiafo. Feed a visitor 4 times a year. Marriage? Well, fortunately, I had someone that I'd been thinking about marrying, but we hadn't got to the urgent level yet. I could imagine the expression on Akuzwa Ferguson's face when I popped the question. I would definitely have to keep my dealings with Asiafo out of the picture. I couldn't imagine any woman being pleased because a wizard in the forest had said, "You should be married in 3 months." Saturday seemed to last forever. I took long walks. I did 3 hours of the midday siesta. I wrote letters. I tried to read a book. And of course, I ate Auntie Eugenia's food. If I was going to be poisoned, I felt it was better to be poisoned by her than to be burnt alive. If Saturday lasted forever, Sunday was an eternity. I had never done any time, all blessings and thanks to Mom and Dad, plus dumb luck, but I had friends who had gone to the joint for various stretches of time. One of my friends, an ex-coke dealer, had served 5 years, described what it felt like to be about to be released from prison. Kojo, you would have to be there to truly understand what the vibe is. Each minute is a 60-second eternity, and there are times when you find yourself counting the minutes. No good. You could drive yourself nuts doing shit like that. So you begin to focus on the hours, and that's just as bad because the hours become 66,000 million seconds or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? I've seen dudes who have done big time on the verge of release after doing years of time with no sweat. And then they get down to the weekend before emancipation and they damn near lose it, damn near go crazy. They develop nervous twitches, ulcers, all kinds of anxiety and shit. Well, I wasn't exactly experiencing last minute stir fever but I was definitely feeling anxious, a word that I'd never heard in Ghana here. 2 p.m. I was feeling quite antsy. Don't tell me this guy is going to leave me stranded here. He was supposed to collect me at noon. Trying to kill off my tension, I took a final stroll through the village and was surprised to see the people being cordial again. What a moody bunch. Auntie Eugenia quietly explained the emotional switcheroo to me. Yesterday in church, Reverend Donda told the people to behave themselves. He told us that you are not of our traditional beliefs, that you are not bound by our taboos, that you could not make a problem for us. Problem? What kind of problem? She did a little head down, embarrassed look. Oh, if you were of the village and you met with Asiafo, there would be no problem. You are, after all, an Obruni. If we had dealings with Asiafo, we might have to do sacrifices to make the bad spirits away. Are you kidding me? I think so. Of course I was pissed about the Obruni labeling me a European, an Obruni. The driver finally pulled up at 3 p.m. Oh, sorry, sir. I couldn't say what I felt like saying. You sorry ass chicken shit. How dare you not be on time? But I had to remember that I was in Chee-Toe, in a distant nowhere village in Ghana, and that he had remembered to come for me, even though I hadn't paid him for the return trip yet. I had left Auntie 300,000 cedis on a stool inside the hut for being so nice to me. I knew that she would be a rich woman for the rest of the year with that amount of money. And yes, she had been a gracious hostess, despite the Asiafo thing. She felt like a stick of wood in my arms when I hugged her goodbye. But then I remembered that that wasn't considered good form in Chee-Toe for men and women to embrace in public. I was pleased to put the village behind me. I had spent my week there and gotten a hell of a lot more than I bargained for. Back to Accra, back to grace. Our time in Ghana was winding down. I am so annoyed with you, Kojo. I want to knock you about. I'm surprised at you. You go to a small, backward, stinking village for a few days and allow them to turn your head around the bend? Come on now. They're just a bunch of superstitious village people. Well, how about Asiafo? How do you explain him? How do you explain away somebody surviving in the forest alone for 40 years? I couldn't explain that, and I didn't try, but I had to try to make him see the absurdity of talking about a half-naked man in the rainforest, promising him financial aid if he did the right thing. Kojo, it is one of the oldest stories in human history. Man makes a deal with the supernatural to get what he wants. Grace, if you knew Hollywood, the way I knew it, you would be damn happy to get financing for your movie no matter where it came from or how it got there. And that's basically where we left it. I didn't think it would make a great deal of sense for me to try to force him to sit up, as we say in Ghana here. After all, he was a lovely boy and had given me such a beautiful time. So why should I clutter up matters by acting beachy? We spent 3 gorgeous days together, made 2 great promises, which was when it was time for him to get on the plane. We would write each other once a month, and we would be brutally honest with each other. Agreed? Yes, please. And then it was gone. Back to the place where they invented milk and made money. And I'm going to stop at chapter 6, which begins, Akuzwa Ferguson, the woman back home. The long trip back to the land of milk and money gave me lots of hours to think about my bride-to-be. Akuzwa Ferguson, lots of heart and soul. How do you go about bucking the wishes of a couple of right-wing thinking Negro-centric parents all the way to changing your name from Cynthia, or was it Debbie, to Akuzwa and telling the folks that they could stick the inheritance, the homes, and all the rest of it up their butts if they didn't like what she was about. And that is the beginning of chapter 6, which we will continue tomorrow without any help from Asiafo.
Okay, and so we are having your reading from The Snake Doctor.
From The Snake Doctor, this book right here. Can you see that in the light?
Yeah.
Your gorgeous photo of Bahati.
Bahati, yes indeed. Thank you very much.
Photo by Zola Salena-Hawkins.
Yes, thank you very much. And the book can be purchased
At where?
Author House or Amazon.com or Barnes & Noble. And even your
Or
local...
if you see someone walking down the street and it's sticking out of their sorry.
No. We don't go there.
Don't do that.
Your local bookstore. You can go in and say, I want a copy of The Snake Doctor. You can order it and tell them it's by Odie Hawkins. His other books are at www.odiehawkins.com. And wow, I appreciate the reading of chapter 4 and 5 and into 6.
Asiafo is coming back to me.
Oh.
And he will play a very tremendous part in the life of the lead character in this book. Kojo Bediako Brown is about to have his whole life
Turned upside down during a Halloween time.
I ain't thought about it like that.
All right.
Hey, see you later.
See you later into chapter 6 when you go there.